Hey, I'm Jake, and today I'm going to tell you all about how I made this piece of artwork, this taco bot illustration, and about my new cell phone cases from Rhino Shield. Pretty cool. All right, as an independent artist, you're always on the lookout for projects that are going to make you money, right? You're trying to support yourself with your art. Your radar is out there scanning. What can I do to pay rent this month? The ideal project is something that, number one, uses artwork that you've already created, and number two, puts something cool or useful into the world. So when Rhino Shield contacted me about making cool phone cases with my artwork on it, it was a no-brainer. Number one, it gets to use artwork that I've already created. This Sky Heart piece I did a couple years ago, and now it's on a phone case. And number two, they make really cool, sturdy, like nice phone cases. So it's putting something useful into the world. You need a phone case to protect your phone, and they have like a legitimate product here. Okay, so the deal with them went like this. They said, we will prep your artwork for the phone cases. We'll actually manufacture and print your artwork on the phone cases. We'll run the website. We'll take the orders. We'll pack and ship the phone cases out to whoever orders them. That's what we're going to do. All you have to do, Jake, is spread this on your social media and make a YouTube video about it. Now, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with this channel. I told you in a few videos ago that I'd never make a video to waste your time, to just make a video that was all about buy my phone cases. That seemed a little disingenuous and frankly kind of spammy. So today I'm going to do something that I rarely do on this channel. I'm going to show you step by step how I made the art that ended up on one of these cases. Okay, now usually I charge for tutorials like this, but today you get it for free. All I ask in return is that if you need a new phone case, in the description below, click the link and you could buy one of these Jake Parker Rhino Shield phone cases. All right, let's talk about how I made this taco bot drawing. All right, so I want to take you through my drawing process. And my drawing process has 4 stages. These 4 stages are, number one, the gesture. What the gesture is, you're going in, you're sketching, and you're just building out an armature or like a wireframe of what your character is going to be. You know, if your character's running, it's almost like a stick figure of your character running, or if your character is like jumping, you're getting all the movement or falling, you're getting all the movement of what this character is going to be. You're worried a little bit about proportions. This gesture is just like the initial base stage, and doesn't even have to be a good drawing. It's just getting the vibe and the feel of it. Once you're done with that, you're going to move on to the design. Okay, design is where you're going to figure out, does your character have like a cool hairdo, right? Does your character have, like tapered off limbs? Are they, is there a gut hanging out? Does your character have like boots on? So the design stuff is all just trying to figure out, what does your character actually look like? You might even like go in and mess with proportions a little bit, things like that. But once you've got design figured out, you move on to structure. Okay, structure and design kind of flow together, but for the most part, I'm thinking design first and then structure. They can work fluidly together. So structure is when you figure out, okay, what are the actual shapes they're going to make up this character who's got cylinders for the legs? What are the 3-dimensional pieces that put this character together? Because I want my design is usually primarily concerned with more 2-dimensional, iconic sort of shapes and instant visual read. Structure is where all of that design actually has like a solid ground to be built upon, right? So in design, you might have a character who's like standing, with the hands on their hip. This is just my this is sort of my gesture here. In design, I'm going to say, okay, he's got to have like big cuffs right here, you know, big like pirate boots or something. I don't know. And we'll give him a big pirate hat, right? That would be like the design stage. And then structure, I'm going to go in and decide, okay, well, this pirate hat, we're going to be seeing it from the bottom. So we're going to like actually see the bottom of the pirate hat there. And these cuffs, we're actually going to wrap around the hand like that. You know, it's giving a three-dimensionality to this like design phase that you've done. And the belt, since it's sagging a little bit, it's going to go down like this instead of, you know, up like that. We're thinking everything through. We're going to be able to see into the boots. This is all the structural stuff that's going on. And then once you're done with that, this is the fourth stage, and that is rendering. And rendering is all the final polish that you're going to put on it. If it's inking, this is your ink stage. If it's color or watercolor, you're going to add color to it. You're going to add light and shadow at this stage. It's all of the final finessing and visualization that you're going to do to make this look like real instead of just a sketch or a drawing. All right, so these, I wanted to start off just showing you this before I go in and show you the different levels of this taco bot that I did. So my first pass of the taco bot was this initial gesture, and you can see here I'm just figuring out really scribbly a little bit of design, a little bit of gesture of what this character is going to look like. And my initial thought was have him be a like a quadruped, like a little like creepy crawly thing. And honestly, I sat on this for a couple of weeks before deciding that, you know, it just didn't feel good to me. I needed to have another few design passes on it. So this is a thumbnail designs of what this character could be. Is the taco vertical? Is the taco horizontal? Ultimately, I decided this is what I want to go with. Horizontal taco with like a normal bipedal body attached to it. So here I have my design, my first gesture pass of this character. Not quite doing it for me. So I went in, and this time I'm adding a little bit more design stuff to it. You know, I'm beefing up some of these robot pieces, some of these panels. Then I thought maybe this character should be running. So this is a gesture drawing of this character running. Again, not so much worried about structure or design, but just getting like this pose figured out. Okay. Ultimately, I decided, no, he needs to be standing. And so what I did was I downloaded the, you know, I got a picture of the emoji, the iPhone emoji of a taco, because it's like a basic iconic version of a taco. And I started adding, you know, a gestural pose of this character standing there. And I felt pretty good about this, and I felt ready to move on to design and structure stage of this character. And so let me pull that up. There we have it. This is close to a final drawing before I would want to go to the rendering stage for me. And you can see here I filled this taco up with what really was like the aha moment for me in doing a taco bot was filling up the interior pieces with just a jumble of like technology, just bits and pieces of machinery. I thought that would be really cool. And so I went in, I filled it up in here, drew this guy standing, and I sat on this for like a day before I realized, you know what, he needs to be running. He can't just be standing there. It needs to be a little bit more dynamic. And besides, running would add a cool element in that these pieces could be like falling out. It would just give the whole piece a lot more motion. So I went back at it, and this was my like final drawing for the running. And you could kind of see some of this gestural stuff underneath. And this is working up to a nice structured designed piece. So the design elements were, you know, are we going to have boots on here? Is he going to have like a wider thigh and a thinner calf? You know, what are the panelings going to look like for the taco? What are the actually little bits and pieces going to look like? That was all done in the design stage. Then I went in and gave it structure. One thing looking at this taco, I really like just these jumbled bits of like cubes of meat and
and then these like winding pieces of cilantro and onion going in between it. And so with the mechanical stuff, the machinery bits going in here, I thought, let's have a lot of tube-shaped pieces, but then let's offset that with cube-shape, these box pieces. And so this is following a design principle I call the 30-70 rule. And what the 30-70 rule is that if you were to take an image, 30% of this would be filled with detail and like just eye-catching bits of detail, and then the rest of it, the 70%, would be places of rest. So busyness in the 30 and rest in the rest of it, places for just your eye to pause and to catch its breath. And so I tried to follow that with this. This is our 30%, where it's just full of busyness. And then the rest is just places where your eye can sort of catch up and rest. And then little bits of 30% of busyness. And then places for your eye to just kind of rest. And what that does is give it just dynamicness. You don't want to have a piece where it's just all busyness. You have no idea where your eye's supposed to look. And again, you don't want to have a piece where it's all just restful. It's boring. So I think this 30%, 30-70 thing kind of works for pretty much anything you're going to do, even if you're doing like a landscape drawing. Like, so here we have big, restful, big shapes, right? The rolling hills, the big puffy clouds. And then I'm going to put like this super detailed like castle. And this is like my 30, airships coming in there. And this is like my 30% of like super busyness. So your eye is attracted to this, but everything is like drawing your eye to that. Okay. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking there. All right. Once this is done, what I do next is I actually print this out on a piece of cardstock and I ink it. So let's go do that. And then we'll come back and we'll do the coloring.
All right, usually when I'm inking, and you guys have seen me ink, 50 different things on this YouTube channel, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm adding in the large contour lines first. I'm using a brush pen so that I can get nice thicks and thins without having to go over my lines a bunch. So I'm doing these big, thick contour lines first. And then I'm going in and adding all of the like little detail lines next. Filling in some of these more structural lines that help define the shape. How it exists in three-dimensional space. And it's just going back and forth and doing those two things. Contour lines, then going in and adding little structural lines. My line drawing in the computer in Photoshop wasn't too nailed down. And I used to have my drawings be really tight before I would ink them because I didn't trust my inking abilities. And I wasn't that good at inking. And it took time and practice to get to where I felt confident in my inking ability so that I could have a looser line work and let me find a lot of the drawing with my inking. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and ink all this, and then once that's done, we'll scan it and put it in the computer. Okay, I'm not going to get into the specifics of scanning because there's 100 different scanners. Main thing to remember, regardless of what scanner you're using, regardless of what software you're using to import it or anything, just scan it at 300 DPI.
Okay, so here I have the scanned ink work of this, and one of the questions I get a lot of times from students and just people who are like really getting into scanning their artwork and coloring it is, how do you get rid of the pencil lines. What's the best way to do that? And there's a handful of different ways, but this is the way that I like doing it the most. And what I do is I'll take this initial scan, I just duplicate it, I make a copy of it. And then what I do is I go down to image adjustments and open up threshold. All right. And the threshold, what it does, it's this kind of unique tool in Photoshop that I love. And what it does is it looks at every pixel and decides, is this pixel closer to white or is it pixel closer to black? And there's a threshold where it decides this is a white pixel or this is a black pixel. And it just completely divides the pixels up. And you can see close here, there's no anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing is when you have these like gray pixels that transition, these little gradient pixels that transition between white and dark. What it does is it just separates these and it makes a nice clean line. It looks jagged up close, but if you've scanned your artwork high enough at 300 DPI or higher, and you go to print it out, or even if once you're done with it, you shrink it to like post it on the web, you lose that jaggediness and it just looks like a nice, smooth, clean line. So that's what I do there. All right, so once that's done, what I do is I take this line work and I set it to multiply. And what multiply does, you can just go up here and you go from normal to multiply. What that does is anything that's light or white on the piece of on that layer is going to turn transparent, and anything that's dark or black is going to be more opaque. And so if you have this black and white drawing, now you basically have a transparency with this opaque line work on it. And what you can do is make a new layer and just color underneath without messing up your line work at all. And so that's what I do. You can see here, this is my color layer. All it is just using a flat round brush. I'm going in and I'm coloring. I'm picking a color, and you can see here just doesn't even interfere with the line work. The line work just goes right over it. And this is essentially how I lay in my flat colors for any drawing that I'm doing. Okay. So once those flat colors are in place, now it's time to add light and shadow. And what I do is I have my shadow layer here, and all it is a multiply layer set to 30%. And then I use the darkest purple I could find, and I use that for my shadow. All right, so I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you exactly how I go about doing this. So I pick a light source. My light's coming from this sort of 3/4 top view. And then anything that isn't facing that light source directly is going to be in shadow. So this whole side of the taco is going to be completely in shadow. And I'll just bucket fill it like that. And then I'll go in and do the same thing on the side of all these pipe-shaped things, learning exactly where to put these shadows and where not to put them. It takes a lot of experience, a lot of observation, a lot of like internal mathematical geometry in your head, thinking, okay, if the light's coming on this side, then it definitely wouldn't like be able to see over this, and this thing would be casting a shadow over that. There's a lot of computation going in your head, and it just takes time to learn. And so that's why you should just practice it and get good at it. Observe how light works around you. Observe how artists do light in the drawings that they do, and their favorite drawings that you see out there. And by all means, don't just observe, but actually go and do your own work. I just read a quote this morning from a 5th century BC mercenary, and he said, basically, you could study war, that's one thing, or you can live the life of a warrior. And that's where you actually, I know we're just talking about art here, but it kind of all applies, right? You could study how to draw, you can read books, you can look at art, but you'll never learn how to draw until you live the life of an artist. And what's the life of an artist? It's an artist isn't concerned with the noun of being an artist. An artist is concerned with being the verb, and that's creating art. It's making things. So spend your time making things, and you're going to learn way more than just studying and learning. I think the two go hand in hand. I think the two go hand in hand, but they are, it's definitely put more emphasis on actually creating work, because you're going to learn a lot there. All right, so that's how I do the shadow. You can see here I've added to everything. Now this next part really sells the lighting on this. And what you do is you select your work, you select the color layer, you make a new layer that's a multiply. I usually set it to 30 or 40%. And then I select my gradient tool and I just do a gradient from the bottom to the top. And you can see just adding that little bit of gradient adds like just enough lighting to it. Might do a little bit here like that too. And what that does is it puts an emphasis on this upper area where the light's hitting. And it's sort of the stuff that's farther away from the light just gets a little bit darker. But it's not done yet. Then I do another layer and I set it to overlay around 50%. And I pick a yellow and I add some light on the top there. And between these two layers, you can just see, it just feels a little bit more lit. All right. And that really, in a nutshell, is how I color everything. It can get a little bit more complex. I can have more layers of shadow. I can have more layers of light. I can go in and you know, just have a straight up highlight layer where I'll add like little pops of white in places, right? You can do stuff like that. But essentially that's all you're doing when you're coloring line work like this, is you're building up layers of shadow, building up layers of light until you've got a piece that you like. And that there is how I created the artwork for the Taco Bot.
I'm a firm believer that every drawing should have 9 lives. I don't know, 8 or 9 lives. In that, I mean that every drawing you should get something from it from every different stage, and you should use it for whatever you can use it for. Okay, so this Taco Bot drawing that I did ended up on a phone case. You can see here on this really cool Rhino Shield phone case. I also made stickers of Taco Bot for Art Drop Club. Those are just some of the products that I've made with it. It'll also look good on a t-shirt. I'm thinking of doing a Taco Bot t-shirt. The other thing though is the drawing of it. I did an Instagram story of me drawing it, so that was a way to get eyes on my work through Instagram. Then there's the Instagram post, and a lot of people love the Taco Bot thing. Then when I made stickers, I posted a picture of the sticker. That got a ton of likes, and it was a way for people to tag other people and say, hey, check out this artist's work. Look what he's making. I can sell the original artwork. I can also scan that original artwork and put it in a compilation of my drawings. I do these drawings books. I do these drawings books where I just collect all my drawings from the year and put them in a book that's like 120 pages, and then I sell these as well. And I can do a digital version of this, a PDF download of this as well. So this Taco Bot drawing is, you know, I don't know how much money it's going to make me at the end of the day, but it's a way of leveraging everything that you do, always looking for ways that you can use that and other things and make the most of the artwork that you do and the time that you spend doing your drawing. Okay, that's it for today's video. Thank you for joining me. Like I said, these phone cases are super solid phone cases. Go buy one if you need a phone case. They got them for practically every current phone that's out there. I think iPhone 5 and up, a bunch of Android phone models, Pixels, things like that. If you want 10% off your order, put in the code Jake Parker, and it's down there in the link as well in the description, and you get 10% off your order. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next video.